right, this video is going over your daily CARs and warm-up routine. If you follow through with this routine each and every single day, your joints are going to start feeling so amazing. It's just a great way to spend about 15 minutes taking care of your body, making sure that your joints have lots of space to move. And if you do these, especially in the morning, you'll notice that your body is going to move a lot more freely all throughout the day, so you can really get the benefits of that. I also like to go through this routine before any workout, so you can quickly go through this routine before any of your strength workouts or any kind of cardio work, and you'll notice that your body will just move a lot more freely through those routines. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to have you come into a quadruped position, and we're going to start by warming up the wrists. Once we come into this position, we're just going to rock those wrists back and forth. I've got my hands with my fingers nice and spread, with my fingertips slightly curled in, so that I can evenly distribute the weight across my entire hand rather than dumping everything into my wrists. Now I'm going to point my fingertips outward, making sure my chest is stacked over my wrists, and I'm going to rock back and forth. I'm going to do this just a couple of times to get nice and warm. Then I'm going to turn those fingers in toward me and stretch my bottom down toward my feet a couple of times. Now, if this is really challenging for you and you notice that your elbows are bent, all you need to work on is trying to straighten out those elbows. You can also make this a little bit easier by flipping one hand forward and the other hand back and just working on one at a time. So that's starting with the wrists. Next, we're going to go into the spine. And I'm going to start with just some nice cat and camel. So I am trying to get my spine to move really big curves in each direction, maybe nice big rainbows and smiley faces. Then I'm going to work my spine in two parts. I'm going to start with just my pelvis and everything below, keeping my chest really stable. I'm going to start getting some movement just through my lower back. So you'll notice that it looks a lot like if I have a tail, that I'm shining that tail up toward the ceiling and then hiding it between my legs. Notice I'm not getting a lot of movement through my chest. I'm really focusing on pelvic movement, which will lead to more pelvic stability. Now I'm going to sit back, and this will kind of stabilize my pelvis. And I'm going to focus on just getting movement through my rib cage here. I want to really press and find my end ranges in each direction here. Once we've done that, we're going to move forward into working on the hips. So I'm going to start with a 90-90 position here. I've got each of my legs in a 90 degrees and also between my legs at 90 degrees. I'm going to begin with just a nice little stretch here as I drive my knee into the floor, only about 20 or 30% tension at first, slowly working up to a little bit more intensity as I drive that knee in. You should feel the muscles around your glutes starting to work. You might also feel a stretch in the front of your thigh. All of that is normal. If you're very flexible, but you're still working on building strength, you can also drive your knee into the floor and then squeeze it back into your pelvis. And that'll just kind of protect some of these tissues from stretching too far right now until we've built up a little bit more strength through those hip flexors. All right, now I'm going to line up my chest with that front of my leg. I still have tension through this back leg, but I'm going to draw my attention to this front leg instead. So keeping my spine nice and long, I'm going to fold forward, getting a nice stretch through my leg. Once I have gotten a stretch here and I start to feel that I'm loosening up a little bit, I will take this leg and press it into the floor. Again, we want to build up that tension slowly over time. So while I'm in this folded position, I'm going to gently start pressing this leg into the floor, getting a little bit of tension here, and then I'm going to build up more tension and more tension and more tension until I can quite literally press my upper body away from the floor using the muscles in this front leg. If that's very challenging for you, you can use your fingers as a little helper. So your fingers will push some and your leg will push some, but you're going to repeat that 3 to 4 times, nice and slow. Then we're going to draw our attention to this back leg again. I'm going to maintain my torso position, don't want to twist here, but I'm going to start externally rotating this leg. So I'm just opening up this knee like a little clamshell, trying to get lots of space here, again, without twisting through my low back. So I'm just starting to get those hips working. I'm gonna do that 3 to 5 times. And I'm gonna come back into this slightly folded position now, draw my attention to that back ankle, and we're gonna internally rotate the hip here. So this time I'm going to lift that back ankle. You should feel muscles through this glute working. If your ankle does not lift from the floor, but you feel those muscles starting to turn on, that's okay. We all have to start somewhere. When I first did this, my ankle didn't go anywhere. I did not have the strength to lift that ankle up off the floor. So we're going to repeat that a couple of times. If that's really easy for you, you can sit up a little bit more and lift that ankle to get a little bit more activation there. Now we're going to draw our attention to that front leg, and I'm going to lift that front leg. Again, we're using some of those internal inner thigh muscles as I get some lift here. You may struggle with this one too, but again, we're just trying to start turning on some of these muscles. If this one's really challenging for you, you can lean back and then get some lift. You might notice that it's a little bit easier in this position. And then as you get a little stronger, you can work up to bringing your chest closer to that leg. Now I'm gonna shift around a little bit so you can see me better. From here, I've got my knee driving into that floor, and I'm going to come down onto my elbow. I'm not dumping and resting here, but I'm keeping that shoulder nice and open. Tension in my knee. And just in this position, I can already feel a little bit of a stretch, but I'm gonna reach up to the sky to get deeper into it. And then I'm gonna reach my hand away from my body, bringing that bicep to my ear. And then my personal favorite, while I've got lots of tension in that knee, I'm going to twist my chest toward the floor. While you're here, you can give me a couple of big arm circles just to loosen some of that fascia and tight tissue through your chest. I know a lot of us get tight in those areas, so this will probably feel pretty good. I'm gonna continue keeping that hand reaching up toward the floor. Place one hand behind me, both feet flat on the floor, and from here I'm just gonna reach up to the sky as I pop my hips up and come on back down. Now you've got two sides, so we're going to do all of those same things on the other side. I challenge you as you're going through this to see if you can remember what comes next. Doesn't all have to be in order. All you need to know is that each of your legs, we're gonna work the outer area and the inner area in both directions. So now we're working everything on the opposite, okay? So I'm getting this nice little stretch here, driving my knee into the floor, starting to build up some tension here. Once I've done that, I'm gonna bring my chest toward my calf, get that nice fold and stretch. And then I'm gonna start to build up some tension in that leg as I press my leg into the floor. Now you'll notice that I'm not just coming up into this position and lifting my chest. That's using more of my upper body to get that lift. What I really wanna do is drive that floor away from me so that I can feel that in my outer thigh and lateral part of my glutes. We're getting into that glute med there, okay? So we've done that a couple of times. Now we're gonna draw our attention to this back leg. I'm gonna get some external rotation here, keeping that stability in my low back, trying to really just use the hips. One of the reasons we end up in a lot of low back pain is because the hips don't do the work themselves and we ask the back to take over and do a lot of the work for us. The better your hips move, now I've moved on into that front leg again, the better your hips move, the less your back will be taking over, the less wear and tear and constant shearing forces on your back. And you will feel a lot better. So the purpose of this is to get those muscles turned on so that they know what they're supposed to be doing here. I'm gonna hinge forward just a little bit and lift that back ankle. All right, so we've worked on inner and outer thighs on both legs. Now I'm going to bring my forearm to the floor, keeping tension in that knee. I've got this nice long line. I'm gonna reach up to the sky. If I'm tight, I'm gonna stay here for a moment. If I feel pretty good here, I'm gonna move on to the next step. Bringing that bicep to my ear and really reaching. The more tension you create here between your body and the floor, the deeper you'll get into that stretch. Then we're going to twist and face that chest toward the floor. Hold. And you can start giving me some of those arm circles again. I like to give these a few moments going in each direction. It's a pretty fluid movement here. There's no right or wrong, just trying to feel my body. And I'm gonna keep that hand up toward the sky, hand flat, other two legs, feet flat, and squeeze my glutes. Trying to keep my feet flat on the floor here, knees squeezed together and not bowing out as I reach for the sky. Cool. So we have covered wrists, spine, hips. We're gonna do a little bit more for the shoulders here, and then you'll be ready to move on. So for this one, I'm gonna have you reach your fists behind your head or down your neck as far as you can, but I'm not connecting them to each other and I'm not resting them on my head. What I want to do is try to reach as far down as I can and then pull back. From here, I'm going to extend my elbows and then I'm going to rotate my shoulders down and I'm going to do the same thing in that upside down V at the bottom. I'm gonna bend my elbows, reach up my back like I'm trying to scratch an itch, and then I'm gonna pull my fists away from my body. Hold here for a moment, and then extend my elbows. And from here, I'm gonna do the same thing where I rotate my shoulders up, back, and away. You might notice if you get into this position that you'll start tucking that chin to try to make it a little bit easier. Try to keep your eyes forward, really good posture here as you go through a few rounds of this. All of these exercises will be pretty slow at first as you're learning how to listen to your body and how you're learning to talk to your body. As you get a lot of practice, this will take you quite a bit less time. You'll be able to, your body will be responding to you a lot faster. You'll really be able to build up intention behind the movement a lot faster. And then this shouldn't take you more than about 10 minutes to get through the entire thing. I highly recommend doing this in the mornings as many days of the week as you can. And I think that you'll see a huge difference in how well you move and how less pain you're in on a regular basis. Not feeling stiff, achy, all of those things. It really does help you feel amazing. So there is your daily CARS routine.